just rack off. That's what furious Australians are going to be saying to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle after this astonishing leak has just proved that the couple have been lying about the security costs on next week's fake royal tour.
Australian viewers of the Mark Dolan show don't want to see Harry and Meghan. The reason why it went down well in 2018, Paul, is because the Australian public didn't know Meghan Markle very well. Well, they know her now. And what do they know her to be? A gold-digging grifter.
I love you.
Why on earth should these two be given taxpayer-funded security in the first place? They are no longer working royals.
Australians don't want them there. They're not interested. And they've raised a petition in Australia to say, look, if they do come, free country, but if they do come, they're coming as private citizens. This is not a royal tour, and we do not want a single penny of Australian taxpayers' money spent on the police protecting.
Please subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it truly means so much to me.
44,785 Australians and counting. That's how many people are piling onto a change.org petition right now. And the message is blunt, no filter at all. We don't want you here. Just today alone, another 758 names got slapped onto that list. People are moving fast, no hesitation, no second thoughts. The spotlight locks straight onto Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as their visit pulls attention from every direction. And the title of that petition? It doesn't even try to play nice. No taxpayer funding or official support for Harry and Meghan's private visit to Australia. That's it. Straight, cold, and unapologetic. No soft language, no polite spin, just a hard line drawn in public. People aren't buying the idea of this being anything official either. No royal duties, no clear charity backing, just what critics are calling a private money-making tour. That perception? It's spreading fast, and it's not slowing down. This whole thing actually kicked off quietly with a Sydney-based group called Beyond Australia on November 14th, 2025. At first, it barely made a sound. Around 200 signatures, nothing major. Then, out of nowhere, boom! Mid-March hits and the numbers explode. 10,000, then 30,000. Now smashing past 40,000 like people couldn't hit sign fast enough. And Beyond Australia didn't just sit back and watch. They went straight to the top, reaching out to Anthony Albanese, NSW Premier Chris Minns, and Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen, with one heavy question. Will even one taxpayer dollar be used for this trip? Simple question, but loaded. Right now, total silence. No clear answers, still pending. But here's where things start getting loud in a different way. Government agencies are already backing off.
These two cretins literally accused the British royal family of institutional racism as Prince Philip lay on his deathbed as the late Queen Elizabeth II was battling bone cancer. Prince William will never forgive them, and you want to bring them back to us at a time, by the way, when their charity ventures have failed.
Protect the public from what exactly? I mean, they think there's going to be so many people there, they'd need to set up railings, they'd need crowd control? Absolutely not. The few people that might turn up to see Harry and Meghan, I don't think are really going to have nice things to say about them, but that's all it's going to be. A boo here and there. So what, they've got police protecting them from people booing? Good luck with that.
Exactly, and this is all to protect.
All this guy needed to say was, this trip is not going to be used using any Australian taxpayers' money. End. He didn't have to say anything else. Oh, there's only 35,000, but there's 27 million people. He didn't have to say that, and that's a bit churlish.
The PM and cabinet, no involvement, home affairs, same response. The Australian Federal Police, keeping it vague, refusing to comment on protection plans. And maybe the loudest silence of all, not a single Australian. Politicians stepping up to defend the visit. That quiet? Yeah, it says everything. Now let's be fair. 40,000 signatures in a country of 26 million isn't some full-scale uprising. Even the petition organizers would admit that. But don't get it twisted. That number is loud enough to make every MP pretend they didn't see it. And that alone changes the energy around this whole situation. Because back in 2018, completely different story. When Harry and Meghan landed in Australia, the vibe was all love. No pushback, no side eyes, just pure support. They walked in like the country was fully behind them. And at the time, it really felt that way. Take October 17th, 2018, Dubbo, New South Wales. Harry stood out there in pouring rain, no umbrella, talking directly to farmers struggling through drought. It was open to everyone, free event, and thousands showed up. On camera, he said, "You must not silently suffer," and added, "Asking for help was one of the best decisions I ever made." That moment, raw, real, and it hit people hard. Then in 2021, on Armchair Expert, he dropped another line that stuck, "Privilege does give you blinders." His words, no one else's. Now, fast forward to April 15th to 16th, 2026. Same country, same mental health focus, but everything feels different. The spotlight shifts to Melbourne Park, hosting the InterEdge Psychosocial Safety Summit, tied to Lifeline, a well-respected prevention charity. And to be clear, no one's coming for the charity itself. The real heat? It's all about the price tag. People are staring at those ticket tiers like, wait, what? Platinum, 2,378 Australian dollars. Gold, 1,978 Australian dollars. That's already way out of reach for most people. Then things took a sharp turn on April 6th, just 9 days before the event. Out of nowhere, organizers quietly slipped in 2 new options: a delegate pass for 997 Australian dollars and a virtual pass for 498 Australian dollars. No big announcement, no spotlight, just added like nobody would notice. But people did notice, because that delegate pass,
money-spinning tawdry event will be for 300 women, and we estimate that Meghan will probably make £100,000 from that weekend. Okay, that's good money for a couple of morning yoga classes, sound healing, a manifestation session. What the hell is that? What's going on, Samara?
Meghan is trading trash for cash at this point. I mean, seriously.
An online psychotic sycophant of Meghan, you're more than welcome to come. But if you're a professional woman that happens to work in a media career, no, sorry, we'll take your money, then we'll kick you out. It's honestly, this has just got disaster written.
Gwyneth Paltrow's Besties event, which was in 2023, it's basically an influencer blackout. Now, the difference, the contrast with Meghan is the fact that there is nothing. I am shocked. There is no excitement. There's no build-up. There's no one willing to break their silence, anyone of note, to say that they're actually going to the event.
it's more than 50% cheaper than the gold tier, and that kind of gap has people talking loudly. Even International Business Times UK called it out directly, putting the situation on blast. And so far, total silence from both the event organizers and Harry's team. No statements, no explanations, not even basic ticket sales data. And that silence, it's not calming anything down. It's making people look even closer and ask even more questions. Sky News Australia reported that Prince Harry's speaker fee is sitting right around 50,000 Australian dollars. That lines up almost perfectly with what Radar Online said he earned earlier this year at the IAPP Global Privacy Summit in Washington. Same ballpark, same pattern, and people are definitely noticing. But then there's another layer to this story, and it gets messy fast. According to Paula Froelich from Inside Scoop on Substack, organizers didn't originally plan for Harry at all. She claims he was brought in as a last-minute replacement for Deepak Chopra after Chopra's name showed up in Epstein-related files back in February. Her exact words? More of a Hail Mary. And that phrase alone? Yeah, it's got people raising eyebrows everywhere, because now the contrast hits hard, really hard. The same man who once stood in the rain in Dubbo telling farmers, asking for help was one of the best decisions I ever made, is now delivering that same message, but from a stage where even the cheapest ticket is pushing $1,000. That shift, people can't ignore it. And to be clear, this is not a shot at Lifeline. They've earned their respect, no question about it. But it does raise a real, uncomfortable question people keep asking. When did those raw, open, rain-soaked moments turn into VIP-style access events? And more importantly, who made that call? Because back in Dubbo, those farmers didn't need a ticket. They just showed up. Now, there's a price wall standing right in front of the same message. And this is where the story starts flipping completely. Because the timeline, it's about to get very interesting. Lock in one date, October 3rd, 2025. That date matters more than it looks, and it's about to connect everything. Now shift over to Meghan Markle and a Sydney retreat called Her Best Life, scheduled for April 17th to 19th at the Intercontinental Coogee Beach. Sounds polished, right? But here's where things get layered. There's one person behind it, Gemma O'Neill. And just to clear things up, this is not Jackie Henderson from radio. Completely different person.
Ridiculousness of the petition. He said it was a stupid assertion. In their response, batting back, that Australians had dared to say, hang on a minute, we don't want our money being spent on these two. So they were very, very rude with the reaction. Any other normal person would have been like, oh, look, okay, look, I do understand there are concerns, but we will be paying our own way. No, they came out with quite a combative statement that was very, very rude towards the Australians. Patronising, I would.
They've hit back furiously saying, no. Okay, 32,000 people have signed this petition, but 25 million Australians haven't. So therefore, they're very popular. When they get to Australia, those two, they are going to get...
There's no excitement, there's no build. And it's almost like they don't want to be associated with her, with Meghan Markle, because it's really bad for their brand.
Are being asked about the appropriateness of this visit to Australia now. There's a cost of living crisis, and yet there you go, Meghan is swanning around like a Z-list or Z-list celebrities, you say in America, charging money for selfies essentially at this Sydney retreat where people are paying thousands of dollars and so forth. They clearly realise that they have no other role in life. There's nothing else that they can really do except for ape the monarchy, but they were supposed to have separated themselves from the monarchy.
Jackie Henderson already stepped away from the Her Best Life podcast back on February 3rd, so she's not involved here at all. O'Neill is running this retreat solo through her company, Besties Australia. And now the timeline starts telling its own story. Because the sequence, it really matters. Back to that key. Date, October 3rd, 2025. That's when O'Neill purchased a 3-bedroom cottage in Fitzroy Falls, New South Wales for 1.025 million Australian dollars. This isn't speculation. It's backed by property records and confirmed by Daily Mail, Australia, and GB News. Then, just 7 weeks later, November 25th, 2025, everything shifts. O'Neill's separate talent company, GMI Agency, goes into voluntary liquidation. That's straight from Australian Securities and Investments Commission, public records, official filings, no rumors, no guessing. And when you line those dates up side by side, yeah, it raises serious questions. Then comes February 20th, 2026, and this is where the pressure really shows. O'Neill tells administrators she can't contribute anything toward repayments. Her reasons? All documented, no personal savings, limited income, and a failed attempt to refinance her Sydney apartment. That's not speculation, that's on record, just 4 days. Later, February 24th, 2026, Grant Thornton Australia files the official creditors report, and the numbers hit hard. Total debt, 546,848 Australian dollars, and almost all of it, 543,548, is owed to the Australian Taxation Office. That's a massive chunk, no way to downplay that. But then it gets even more intense. Administrators flagged a 7-figure commission payment to an unnamed key client. And here's the problem. No documented loan agreement, no clear commercial reasoning, and no proven benefit to the company. That's not a minor issue. That's a major red flag waving in plain sight. They also noted something else. This situation might not be new at all. The agency could have been insolvent as far back as December of 2024. That means this wasn't sudden. It may have been building behind the scenes for a long time. Then fast forward just 2 weeks, March 11th, 2026. O'Neill announces Meghan Markle as the headline speaker for that Sydney retreat, with tickets, priced at 2,699 Australian dollars. And, yeah, that number definitely turned heads. Now, let's keep this part clear and fair. Besties Australia and GMI Agency are separate legal entities on paper. So, any claim that retreat money is directly being used to cover GMI debts, that's not confirmed. That's not a fact. It's a question. But it's a question people are already asking. As one News Nation source put it, The question writes itself. Who is actually financing this event, and where is that money going? And so far, no clear answer. O'Neill hasn't addressed it publicly.
These two are literally living a fantasy now. There's no royal visit. They don't even have a charity. This is all just a private money-making.
The PR and the pomp and pageantry almost of being part of the royal family, but they don't really want any of the responsibility, do they? They like to turn up to events, have a few photos taken, look like the charming, lovely people that they wish to present themselves as, and then go home, then go back to California.
Can I just tell you that Australia has tackled illegal immigration very successfully. And I think given the fact that Harry and Meghan are on their way, I think it's time to reactivate Operation Sovereign Borders, Paul. Just, airstrikes, get the boats out.
Well, he loves it, doesn't he? I mean, that probably is what keeps him going. He's so sad and miserable in his own life because he's basically Meghan's spare handbag that he just feels better when he, slags off, as you said. He loves criticising everybody except for himself.
Can't imagine why nobody's going, can you? I mean, it sounds so interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds so interesting. From a man who can't keep an employee to save his life, talking about workplace mental.
They need $3 million just to survive each year, just to meet their minimum security needs. So I really think we can't frame this in any other way other than a pay for play, a desperate, grab for cash. And I think that just comes down to it, that they really need the buck.
And around the same time, she also deleted her personal Instagram. That move, it didn't quiet anything down. It just added even more curiosity to an already intense situation. And people watching all of this unfold, like Margaret down in Melbourne, are asking something simple but cutting. What kind of background checks were actually done before Meghan Markle's team signed off on this? Because once you start digging into the details, things get a little uncomfortable. So, what does 2,699 Australian dollars actually get you here? On paper, it sounds like a full luxury experience. 2 nights at the Intercontinental Coogee Beach, a gala dinner, a disco night, Saturday lunch, yoga sessions, sound healing, meditation with Gemma O'Neill, and even a conversation with Meghan during the gala. It sounds polished, high-end, almost exclusive. But then you hit the fine print. And that's where people start doing a serious double take. That standard package, it includes a bed you're expected to share with a stranger. Yeah, let that sink in. If you're going solo and dropping $2,699, most people would assume that at least means your own space. Not here. The only way to guarantee your own room is by jumping up to the VIP tier, $3,199 Australian dollars. And what do you get for that extra jump? An ocean view, a goodie bag, and a photo with Meghan. That price leap? It's got people talking, and not quietly either. Then things took another sharp turn. A reporter from 7 News, Ariana Peaky, decided to test it herself. She paid the full 2,699 Australian dollars, no discounts, no special access, just went in like any regular customer. And she asked a basic question. Could she keep her own room? She also requested a tax invoice. Simple, standard stuff. But that's when everything shifted. The moment organizers realized she worked in media, just like that, her ticket was refunded and her access was completely revoked. Gone. The reason they gave? No media permitted. But here's the problem. There was no clear rule anywhere during checkout saying media weren't allowed to attend. No warning, no disclaimer, nothing up front. And that right there, that's what's raising even more eyebrows. Because now, it's not just about the price, it's about what's being kept behind closed doors. Ariana didn't stay quiet. Not even close. She documented everything, every email, every step, and it all got published in 7 News magazine on April 9th. That report didn't calm things down. It poured even more attention onto a situation that was already heating up fast. At the same time, the whole sold out narrative, yeah, that started shifting too. Back in mid-March, the retreat was being pushed as completely booked, full, no spots left. Then suddenly, wording changed to ticket allocation now exhausted, which already sounded a bit softer. But this week, another switch, a handful of additional rooms just released. And people online caught that instantly. One Reddit user straight up said, This is practically begging people to sign up. And honestly, that comment started gaining traction. Then people noticed something else, and this part really stood out. Those same retreat dates had been unavailable for weeks on the Intercontinental's own booking system. That detail?
Obviously, what's going on here is some guy in Australia has gone, I'm starting up a wellness retreat. Who can I get to come and promote it and see if I can get some publicity for it? I know. I'll ring up the grifters in chief. I'll pay them a couple of £100,000. They'll come to Australia and I'll get loads of publicity, and lots of idiots might go there because they might think it's the home of, celebrity wellness. And that's what it's all about. It's completely a commercial deal. They're trying to make out that it's a semi-royal visit, right? It's not. It's literally hoping against hope that they get a free goodie bag at the end of it that might have a Rolex in it. I mean, it's that shallow.
It, as suggests the room block might not have actually sold out the way it was being presented. Put all of that together, and yeah, eyebrows are going up everywhere, and not quietly either. Just think about what this setup actually looks like. You pay around 2,600 Australian dollars. You fly into Sydney, and then suddenly a stranger walks into your room like, hey, looks like we're sharing. That's the deal. And if you happen to have a press card in your bag, you don't even get that far. They turn you right around and send you out. That's where people are drawing a hard line. Because it's not being seen as empowerment. Real empowerment doesn't come with forced room sharing or quiet restrictions like that. What it looks like instead is a paid meet and greet with organizers controlling exactly who gets in the room and who doesn't. Now stack that on top of everything else already building. The petition gaining traction, the confusing ticket pricing, the Grant Thornton Australia report, and the journalist situation, and the pressure. It's clearly rising. So finally, the Sussex camp broke their silence on March 26th. The statement first showed up in Daily Mail and then spread everywhere. Here's what their spokesperson said. It's a moot point. The trip is being funded privately, so I'm not sure what this petition hopes to achieve. But then it went further, and this part really mattered because of how it was framed. They added, if you wanted to dive into the ridiculousness of this petition as an agenda for spreading misinformation, then one could equally hypothesize that there are approximately 26.5 million Australians, 99.98% of the population, who haven't signed it, who must therefore agree with the taxpayer picking up the tab. And then the closer, and of course, that is another equally stupid assertion to make. Read that carefully, because it's not what it looks like at first glance. Yes, the spokesperson points out that 99.98% didn't sign, but then immediately calls that logic equally stupid. That's not a serious claim of support. That's sarcasm baked into an official response. But here's the problem. That tone didn't land well at all. Instead of calming things down, it came off like a direct jab at the 40,000 people who actually did sign the petition. And once that kind of message is out there, it doesn't just fade away. Beyond Australia didn't wait around. They fired back the very next morning with one line. Silence does not equal consent. Short, sharp, and it hit hard. Then more voices jumped in. Royal biographer Tom Bower spoke to the Daily Telegraph Sydney, saying, Meghan is doing it for money. It's rather grubby. She's monetizing her royalty, which I think is pretty shabby because she promised the Queen she wouldn't do that. Strong words, and they definitely didn't go unnoticed. Then PR analyst Maya Riaz weighed in, with the Mirror hitting a different angle. At a time when they're facing criticism around relatability and authenticity, attaching her name to a high-ticket exclusive event feels totally tone-deaf. And that lined up exactly with what a lot of people were already thinking. But here's the part that really flipped everything. And honestly, it should have set off alarms inside the Sussex camp. On its own, that petition probably would have slowed down around 5,000 signatures. That's usually where organic momentum fades out. But it didn't stop there. It needed a spark. And that spark came from the moot point statement. The second that response dropped, it acted like fuel. Signatures started climbing again, fast, adding roughly another 5,000 names almost immediately. Instead of shutting the story down, it pushed it even further. At that point, this wasn't just a reaction anymore. It had turned into something much bigger. It felt like everything had just been amplified. Meghan Markle's team didn't quiet the conversation at all. It got louder, faster, and way harder to ignore. And then, one more detail slipped out. This time from leaked operational planning notes, reportedly shared with selected media on April 9th by Liam Maguire, the Sussex's chief communications officer. One line jumped off the page.
I think somehow that Australians are a little naive, a little easy to skin as far as flogging her as ever merchandise. I think she thinks we're, hicks down under that won't see through it all and be just so honoured that she's graced us with her spread.
She's never sold, 100,000 quid's worth of jam, quite frankly.
No way.
It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. And I see that she's off to Australia. She's copyrighted the As Ever brand, and she's going to land in Australia and she's going to get booed because people hate the woman. She's ghastly. She's toxic. She's horrible. She's ruined a young, once promising man who's now a husk of his former self, who cannot even stand up for it.
There will be no walkabouts in Australia, not in Sydney, not in Melbourne, not in Canberra. The reason? Security costs tied to managing public crowds. Now compare that to 2018, because the contrast is wild. Back then, during the Queen-funded royal tour, the Sussexes carried out 76 engagements across 4 countries in just 16 days. Places like the Sydney Opera House, Bondi Beach, Dubbo, Melbourne, event after event, all open, all packed. Thousands of people showed up every single time, and the energy, you could feel it through the screen. And there was that one moment people still remember, a 5-year-old boy, Luke, Vincent hugging Prince Harry on camera. That image stuck, and for many, it became part of Australia's memory of that tour. Now, jump to 2026, and the difference is impossible to ignore. This time, on what's being described as a privately funded trip, the entire setup feels closed off. The itinerary outlined by Maguire looks completely different. It includes a children's hospital visit, one Invictus Australia event on Sydney Harbour, a women's homelessness shelter, an AFL club stop in Melbourne, a rugby match in Sydney, and a short visit to Canberra, without Meghan. But here's the detail that really stands out. The retreat? It's not even listed. According to Maguire's own planning notes, the team treated the retreat as a completely separate commercial event and left it off the official itinerary entirely. And that's raising serious questions. Because now there's a clear divide between the official visit and everything else happening around it. And right at the center of all this, one question keeps coming up. From Tom Bauer, Beyond Australia, 7 News, and even everyday voices like Margaret in Melbourne. Who is actually paying for what? Because that's where this gets complicated. The petition focuses on one angle. Who covers the security? The retreat raises another. Who's funding the lifestyle around it? The Sussex camp says it's simple, private funding. But for people digging into timelines, pricing, and official documents, that answer doesn't seem to tell the whole story. Back in 2018, Harry and Meghan landed in Sydney, and the country ran toward them. Now, in 2026, they're walking into something very different. A petition that says, "We don't want you here." And that shift alone, it says a lot. You've got a retreat run by someone whose separate company reportedly owes over $500,000 to the Australian Taxation Office. A keynote event that suddenly slashed ticket prices by more than 50% just 9 days before it started. And an audience being told, through Harry's own planning notes, that they're not even allowed to show up and wave. That doesn't feel like a royal tour anymore. It looks a lot more like pay-per-view. Now, let's be clear. None of us were in that room on March 26th when the spokesperson wrote the moot point response. Everyone's working off the same public information. Australian Securities and Investments Commission's records, Change.org numbers, 7 News reporting, Tom Bauer's on-the-record comments, and the Grant Thornton Australia Creditors Report. The real question isn't just what people do with that information. It's what Archewell does next. Because that's what will shape how this story moves forward. And if this breakdown has you paying attention, there's still more sitting just under the surface. Buried inside that February 24th Grant Thornton report is one detail that hasn't been fully unpacked yet. A PCCO and 7-figure commission payment flagged by administrators, with no contract, no documentation, and no clear purpose listed. And when you put that next to what Tom Bauer wrote in Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the war between the Windsors about similar patterns in a different context. The picture starts to look a lot more complicated and a lot harder to ignore. If you want more deep dives like this, hit like, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to see it, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Because this story, it's far from over.